Okay, everypony, let's talk. First off, I would like to say, WOO! Oh my gosh, I am so sorry. But I just got my first subscriber on YouTube, and I am so very excited about that. Okay, and secondly, I know it's been a while since I've done any recordings. It's been like 5 or 6 days, but I've been having a lot of stuff going on, namely dental work. The needles. Oh, Celestia, the needles. Oh well, it's over now. And so, I think I'll be doing another reading, this time a nice little one-shot, to hopefully tide y'all over until the next chapter of My Little GLaDOS comes out. Or, if you would like, leave a comment or suggestion, or heck, PM me on FilmFiction, or heck, anywhere. Grab me on Skype. Oh, wait, I don't have Skype yet. Crap. Oh well. Oh, I would like suggestions on whether or not I should start a new story while My Little GLaDOS is still updating. Now, I know all of y'all really like stories. Otherwise, you wouldn't be listening to this. And you don't want to hear me ramble on now, do you? Oh well, on to the story. This little one-shot is by Alpha Scorpy, and it is called Tummy Aches. Or Tummy Ache, sorry. This is just a little short little thing about Pinkie Pie getting a tummy ache. Now, a little explanation. This takes place before Mrs. Cake's pregnancy and before the Cake Twins. I don't know how two Earth ponies could beget a freaking Pegasus and a unicorn, but oh well. On to the story. The strange noise woke Mrs. Cake up. Unlike her husband, who would remain asleep even if an earthquake was taking place right under the bed, she had quite sensitive ears and could hear practically any sound, even in dreams. She had learned to ignore the usual night noises to keep herself from waking up for nothing, but that one was weird and out of place. The blue mare rose from the bed and walked outside the room, quietly, tip-hoofing. Tip-hoofing, really? She saw a glow at the end of the corridor. It was the bathroom light. The door had been closed, but a small fraction of the shine could still be seen. There was some pony inside, making those strange noises. Mrs. Cake approached, still carefully, although she didn't think it was a burglar. After all, what would a burglar do in the bathroom? You haven't seen the movies I've seen, Mrs. Cake. The weird sound happened again. It was an abrupt and kind of disturbing noise. It sounded painful, too, and Mrs. Cake started to feel bad for whoever was inside there. It sounded more or less like this. Sorry. The baker mare opened the door and gasped when she saw a very recognizable pink pony keeling over before the toilet, hanging to the white throne with her front hooves, and almost introducing her head inside. The head inside. Ew. Pinkie? Asked Mrs. Cake, worried. What are you doing? The pink mare turned her head slowly. Her eyes were teary and tired, and her face was marked with wrinkles of sickness. Sorry, Mrs. Cake, she said weakly. I didn't want to wake. She couldn't finish the sentence. Her cheeks inflated quickly, and she introduced her head back to the toilet, and the disgusting sound was heard once more. Ew. Mrs. Cake approached and flushed the toilet. If you were feeling bad, you should have told us, she said. I didn't want to wake you up, whispered Pinkie, panting. When did this start, dearie? An hour ago or so. I was in my bed. I felt my tummy aching. I tried to ignore it and sleep, but it got worse, and now... Mrs. Cake put a hoof on Pinkie's forehead. Oh, okay, here we are. Let's not place for a second. You don't seem to have a fever. Maybe it's something you ate. I don't know. I didn't eat anything unusual. Mrs. Cake remembered that Pinkie had thrown a party for Twilight in the library that afternoon. In fact, she had come back late, and she hadn't wanted dinner, preferring preferring to head to bed instead. "What did you eat, dear? And more importantly, how much?" asked the baker mare. "Let's see. I ate half the strawberry cake, half of the chocolate cake, 3/4 of the other chocolate cake, 5 cupcakes, 17 lollipops, 4 apples, 10 apple fritters, 9 caramel apples, 11 pies, and the other 5 cupcakes, and some corn cakes." "How many corn cakes?" "Only 6. Blah, tea." "Dear Celestia, that's too much, even for you." Ugh. Pinkie hugged her belly. "Can we stop talking about food? Hurts. It hurts." Mrs. Cake tapped on Pinkie's back with one hoof, using the other to hold her head over the toilet. The pink mare vomited again, although this time it wasn't as much as before. "Okay," sighed Pinkie. I think that was the last one. Your tummy still hurts, doesn't it, dearie?" "Yes." "Don't worry." Mrs. Cake flushed the toilet again and helped Pinkie Pie to stand on her hooves. Then she accompanied her back to her room. It took them a while. They had to stop midway a few times because Pinkie thought that another regurgitation was coming. Fortunately, they were all false alarms. Going upstairs wasn't an easy task either. They did it step by step, with Mrs. Cake's hoof placed firmly on Pinkie's back. Finally, they reached the bedroom, and Pinkie climbed into her bed. "You stay here and don't move, dearie," Mrs. Cake said. "I'll go to the kitchen to prepare a cup of what? I've never heard that word in my life. Caramel tea. I think that's how you pronounce it. Oh, anyway. Thanks, Mrs. Cake. Sorry to bother you so much." "It's all right. Now, don't lie down in your bed. Just sit. Cover yourself with a blanket, but sit. When Carrot has a stomach ache like yours, he feels much better if he's sitting down." "Huh? I guess that's Mr. Cake's first name. Oh well." Pinkie did as Mrs. Cake said, and she felt slightly better. Her tummy was still hurting, but less than before. "Very good," said the baker, smiling motherly. "Now I'll go get to that tea." "Wait." Pinkie took the yellow teddy bear which was in the bed and gave her to Mrs. Cake. "Please put Mr. Plantigrade somewhere else." "Ooh. No. What? But Pinkie, you're always with him. You always sleep with him." "I may vomit again, and I don't want him to get dirty." Mrs. Cake's smile became more motherly. "Okay, I'll tell you what we'll do." She put the teddy bear on a chair. "Mr. Plantigrade will wait here. I'll go for the charmelated tea, and then I'll wait here until you are better and asleep, and then I'll leave Mr. Plantigrade by your side again. What do you think?" "Thanks," said Pinkie, with a weak but sincere smile on her lips. Excuse me. Mrs. Cake trotted downstairs, leaving the pink mare alone, sat in her bed, and hugging her tummy. The stomach ache caused the minutes to turn into hours. Pinkie moaned from time to time, when she was incapable of standing the pain, wishing for Mrs. Cake to return as soon as possible. Finally, the scent of caramel tea, caramel tea entered in the room. Entered in? No. Followed by Mrs. Cake, who was carrying a plate in her mouth. Sorry. On the plate there was a white cup filled with the heated liquid. For a brief moment, Pinkie got a flashback of her youth, back on the rock farm. Oh, excuse me. Her mother used to prepare caramel tea when she or her sisters got sick. Mrs. Cake left the plate on the bed and gave Pinkie the cup. "Here you are, dearie," she said, drinking carefully. "It's hot." Little by little. Pinkie drank a small gulp. She felt the warm tea descending through her esophagus and reaching her tortured stomach, and the pain seemed to diminish. The next 30 minutes passed slowly. Pinkie drank the caramel tea under the watchful eye of Mrs. Cake, who was honestly feeling a bit uneasy. She had never seen Pinkie like that. The pink pony was usually the avatar of happiness, always bouncing around, laughing and making others laugh. Now she was a mare with a tired face sitting on the bed, holding a cup of tea in her hooves, silent, with her half-closed eyes lost somewhere in the infinite. No laughs, no words coming from her mouth at more than 15 syllables per second. Holy shizen. Not even a smile on her face. But then Mrs. Cake realized something she had forgot. Behind her overwhelming optimism, behind her spontaneous songs, behind the element of laughter, behind her apparent powers to ignore or downright negate the laws of physics, Pinkie Pie was, at the end of the day, just another mare of Ponyville. A young mare. She wasn't even a complete adult yet. A pony who, like any other, needed food on the table, a roof over her head, and a comfortable bed to sleep in. And when necessary, a cup of caramel tea. "Do you feel better now, dearie?" asked Mrs. Cake. "Yes," Pinkie said. "It doesn't hurt any more. I'm sorry for being a nuisance, Mrs. Cake." "Oh, you're not a nuisance, Pinkie. Don't worry about this. Every pony gets tummy aches from time to time. It's part of life." "But you had to wake up for me, and it's so late." "Well, you're our employee and our renter, and also our friend. Actually," Mrs. Cake waited for a moment, as if she was thinking if she should pronounce the next word. Finally, she decided. She decided and said, with a smile, "Actually, we consider you part of our family. Since your parents aren't here, it's our responsibility to take care of you in situations like this one." Pinkie stared at the baker mare with her eyes widely opened. The tiredness had dissipated from her face. It seemed now that the caramel tea had done its job. "Really?" she asked. "You consider me part of your family?" "As if you were our beloved daughter," said Mrs. Cake. Pinkie was left speechless. She remained there, staring at the last drops, practically without blinking. The blue baker was afraid she had said something inappropriate. "That means I have two mummies now," smiled Pinkie. "How cool!" Mrs. Cake sighed. Yes, the caramel tea had done its job. Pinkie drank the last drops. It was good to see her back to her usual self. She yawned. Now you have to rest," giggled Mrs. Cake. "And try not to eat that much next time, okay?" "I don't understand what went wrong." Derpy. Pinkie laid on the bed, cover herself with her sheets. I've never had trouble with sweets. I thought my stomach was used to them." "Well, everything is bad in excess," said Mrs. Cake. Put Mr. McPlantigrade back on the bed. Pinkie hugged it. "Or maybe you're getting too old for such banquets." "What? I am not old." The baker laughed and tapped her head with the head of the pink mare. "Good night, Pinkie." Good night, Mrs. Cake." She yawned again. "And thank you for taking care of me." The young mare closed her eyes and fell asleep immediately. Mrs. Cake picked up the plate and the cup and abandoned the room quietly. But before going downstairs, she took a last look to Pinkie. Ugh, I'm tripping all over my words today. The smile had returned to her face, and her breathing was calm. Everything was good. Then the baker realized what the pink mare had said a few seconds ago. "That means I have two mommies now." Mrs. Cake felt a warm sensation in her own tummy. Although not directly, Pinkie had called her Mommy. Tummy ache, end. And this is the author's note here. Dedicated to those who ever suffered a tummy ache at odd hours of the night. Oh, haven't we all? And to all the mothers and fathers who have ever had to deal with situations like this one. Oh, again, haven't we all? All that our parents, anyways. Well, this was a very good thing. I could actually see this being a little offshoot of an episode. Oh well, I'll try to get this up as soon as possible. And I'm sorry for stumbling over all my words. I have a bit of a speech impediment that I'm still trying to work through. Oh well, y'all have a good day now, or night. May Luna bless you and Celestia shine upon you.